Hi, everybody. I've got to press the button
Hi,
in order to
everyone.
go live.
We're doing it. We're live.
We're live. Welcome. I have seashell wind chimes, as you can see behind me.
I made them and I sell them. Hit the link in my bio.
Yes, exactly. As you can see, they fit in perfectly with the background here. You can't even tell that that's a Photoshop.
No, that's the same beach.
Yeah, that's exactly
You
the
could
same
not
beach,
convince me.
same time of day. So, yes, those are the seashell wind chimes. And yes, we do sell them because the grift continues. Okay.
There is no link in my bio, just so we're all on the same page.
This
I
is
do have a website. There's literally nothing on my website.
I wondered that. I did see your website and I was like, what? It didn't open. And I was like, is that
I went into my bio one time and I was like, why is this here?
why do you have a website? Did Jed Wallace make you that website?
I had large aspirations to do more than I'm ever going to do.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to have a website.
It's cool to have dreams.
It's cool to have dreams that you're never going to achieve.
I should just put seashell wind chimes up and then have them all sold out.
Your bio can be Britt is a award-winning, I'll make an award for you, an award-winning seashell wind chime artist.
And so we're all on the same page. Somebody on that like hateful subreddit said that I look like I sell wind chimes, like seashell wind chimes down on the beach. And I was like, nailed it. That is exactly what
it's a read.
No arguments.
Yeah.
2, is that really a job? Because I will leave my job and do that in a heartbeat.
Right.
Lauren.
All right. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really funny. You should do that.
Sold out.
See, there you go.
I will make you wind chimes, actually. Do you want a window charm? I make those too.
Do you really? Or are you just saying this? Yes. Okay.
It's really just the earrings that I didn't want to make a second one for. So I have those like sparkly things that like light up, the prisms that light up in the sunlight. So I just turn them into window charms.
Well, that's cool. Oh, wait. Make me one.
Done.
You're going to have to write a bunch of fake customer reviews, though.
I'm just going to put that Reddit comment on my reviews. Oh, my God. So we are here to talk about Lively versus Wayfarer.
Welcome.
10 minutes later. Sarah sells seashells by the seashore. See, I need you in my business venture. You're a necessary.
That's fair. Yeah. Colorado is famously near the ocean, so we have a lot of beautiful seashells to collect.
If you think Lively has a great case, I also have oceanfront property to sell you. Right. So the oppositions to the motion in Limine are in. If you'll remember, last week we talked about the motions in Limine, which is really just a motion to exclude certain kind of evidence outright so that it's never presented to the jury. If it is presented to the jury, there's a huge issue. So yeah, each party filed motions in Limine to exclude evidence. Each party filed their opposition this last Friday. Mm-hmm. And Sarah and I read it, so you did not have to.
Yes. And so just kind of as a reminder, they may not rule on these. You're not going to necessarily see like an order or an opinion the way that you've seen with other motions. Some of this is going to be, he's probably going to kick it to trial because he loves kicking the can down the road. Yeah. And so we're not necessarily going to see before trial who wins this fight. It could depend on how things parse out at trial.
We also have a couple pending motion for judgment on the pleadings, motion for summary judgment. So the judge may rule on those. I have had judges starting the trial. Hey, there's some housekeeping matters we need to get to. Mm-hmm. Before we start trial or before the jury comes in. And so that is, like Sarah is saying, it's very likely the judge will say, hey, let's deal with some of these housekeeping matters. Let's do a brief oral argument back and forth, a couple minutes each side on your motions in Limine. He may ask them some questions. Well, what if I rule this? A lot of times what judges will do when you have a large expanse of evidence is they will say, let's take it piece by piece. Mm-hmm. So or he'll say, like, don't testify to this. This is beyond, but I'm going to see piece by piece as far as the evidence comes in. So,
right.
it's just a way of limiting scope of what comes in at trial.
And so M asks, will the judge's decision be submitted on the docket for the advanced ruling of exhibits?
For the advanced ruling of exhibits.
So no, if they're trying to keep an exhibit out, is how I'm reading that.
Like for the motions in limine?
Yeah.
He could. I mean, he may issue a ruling on all this. He may kick it to trial. If he does issue a ruling, of course, it'll be on the docket. If he kicks it to trial, it'll be in the court transcripts.
Okay. So Lucy said, hi, just tune in. How about the dispositive motions are supposed to be ruled when? So on Friday, what day is it today? It's 4/20. So
happy 4/20, everyone.
4/20.
I was like, this is my favorite holiday. And then I was like, you're a child.
I'm from Colorado. Every day is 4/20. So on the 24th, which is this Friday, Lively should submit her response to the motion for judgment on the pleadings that Wayfarer filed, as well as, and then Wayfarer will be submitting. She hasn't responded to it yet. She's responded to Tag's motion for summary judgment.
That's right. Okay. I was like, she did respond to one.
Yeah. And then this Friday, Wayfarer should respond to her reply. Wayfarer should reply to her response to Tag's motion for summary judgment. And then also, so we'll see that back and forth on Friday.
I would imagine the judge would make a priority of the motions that will get rid of claims.
Yes.
So the motion for judgment on the pleadings by Tag, I would imagine, would be a priority. Mm-hmm. The motion for summary judgment, I imagine, would be a priority before the motions in limine.
And there's some interesting things that come out. Like if Tag is out and Wayfarer is out. I mean, Wayfarer out is less of an issue, but if Tag is out, the text messages between Nathan and Abel don't necessarily come in, or it becomes a different conversation about how they get in.
Yeah.
So that helps solve some of those in limine problems.
Exactly.
I did want to really quick, I'm just going to pull this up. So there was a motion for Errata filed today. And what they changed was that Sheriff Steve Law will explain. So the old sentence was Sheriff Steve Law will explain that without after seeing stories about the rift between Lively and Baldoni, she will explain that without seeing stories about the rift between Lively and Baldoni that surfaced after seeing the film, she made the spontaneous decision to contribute her own negative experience. So there's two things, and I actually forgot to highlight the other one, which is that instead of saying after seeing stories, they're changing it to without seeing stories. Which there it is, right? I thought that was an interesting change. And then after seeing the film, it ends with us.
Which is believable. I mean, Blake's promo was getting so much backlash.
Right.
That I didn't start seeing stuff about the Lively Baldoni unfollow situation until much later.
Right. And so that's how I'm reading that, is that she's saying that she didn't know that there was necessarily this conflict going on, but she saw maybe the Lively stuff and didn't like the film or whatever it was. So that's the change. We might see a response to this just because Lively responds to everything. So, we will see how that goes. But that is the first thing. Okay, so where do you want to start?
Do you want to start with the 7 women?
Yes.
I thought it was 11 personally, their smear campaign would have me believe it's 11. Random
numbers at this point. Okay, so I have a bunch of jury stuff. None of this is important. Okay.
It's just all prime numbers.
So I'm doing the jury thing, right? I'm a big fan of Brian Panish, who's a jury consultant, and he's a litigator, and he's quite famous in the jury perception, jury argument, and he runs a podcast called Jury Insights. And I just got some stuff from his latest episode that I'm thinking about the jury thing, right? So, a lot of this is basic stuff that if you do anything with juries. There's a gap between the evidence and the interpretation. Panish has done some studies, and he's participated in some studies about showing someone a video and being able to change how the jury thinks that stuff is happening in the video through changing the context of the video. If you show the video cold, and there's a very famous study where they have a cyclist getting hit by a car, and when they show just the video cold, the jurors say that the cyclist is at fault. But when they do all the eyewitness testimony first, and then kind of put that into that context, then show them the video, they don't see the cyclist as at fault. So even though it's a video, there are ways to contextualize everything.
So it would be better for Wayfarer to have that video come in
after it's been contextualized.
Right. Which they'll probably bring it in through Lively.
Right. So she'll talk about it. They'll have some context. But I mean, as he puts, this is his quote, they filter even visual data through the framework that they have accepted as the truth. So you tell them what the truth is first, and then you show them the evidence, and the evidence substantiates the thing they are already thinking. It's a little bit terrifying. So there's also things about timelines, which I think is Wayfarer is obviously already thinking about, because they have that timeline that they came out with Exhibit A. He did say some stuff about voir dire. One thing he talked about Tom Girardi, and if you're not familiar, Tom Girardi is like the winningest attorney in history, who also was running a Ponzi scheme and then developed dementia, and they're having a hell of a time trying him. But Tom Girardi told Brian Panish at one point that what he does is during voir dire, he would have his dad, who's also an attorney, sit in the back and watch the last row of the jury because they don't think they're being watched, and look at their body language and their tone and how they're responding and who they're making eye contact with. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
My paralegal and I split up jurors to watch. So she watched a certain portion. I don't remember if it was front, back, or like left, right.
Yeah.
And we sort of kept like an eye on how people were reacting to certain evidence.
Yeah. So I thought it was funny. Bringing her dad, and then his dad's just a little old man sitting in the back of the courtroom. Another thing I'm kind of thinking about, and I'm still thinking about how Wayfarer can do this, the role of emotions, right? So jurors who have more positive emotions award more damages. And this is Lively's thing, I guess. And but Wayfarer can negate this, right? The trial is draining. Jurors are going to be sitting there. They're going to be listening to a lot of stuff. They're going to be tired. They want to escape. And when I say positive, I don't mean they're happy that they're giving out damages. I mean, they feel good about it. They feel like it's an action they can take that is bringing resolution to their part of the situation, right? You want them to feel like they are contributing to everything. And so, there's some things that I'm already seeing, right? They're doing a questionnaire for the voir dire. I don't know if they're going to want them questioned individually or in small groups. I think they probably will want small groups. I don't know if Limine will go for it, but you want honesty, and you want people to feel good about how they're feeling, right? So and this is how Lively needs to frame it, right? Damages are a restoration of balance that elevates the jury from accountant to guardians.
You served justice here today.
Yeah. You made the pain matter through money, right? So, then I have other jury stuff, but the main thing I wanted to talk about was some of this Me Too thing. And this is where the reason I'm talking about making the pain matter is because I think this emotional argument plays in nicely with what I think Lively's new framing is, right? Which is these other women, and there's all these women that have faced this injustice, and now you, the jury, can kind of fix this. So let's get to credibility.
Let's. If you can find it, let me know.
So I want to point out this text message because this is something I've been keeping to myself about Jenny Slate, but I'm going to tell you guys now. So the context for this text message is that Jenny Slate, and if you're not familiar with Jenny Slate, she has a tendency to make jokes that are sexual in nature. Her humor tends crude. She makes sex jokes and comments. No shade. This is just her style of humor. She has a kind of R-rated sense of humor. She used to be on SNL. Like, she has a very adult humor.
Was she?
Yeah, very briefly. And then she got fired for saying the word fuck. She got fired, I think, her first episode or something. Yeah, for one episode, because she got fired for saying the word fuck. It was a whole thing. Because you're not supposed to swear. And but yeah. So her sense of humor is very crude. Her sense of humor, that, you know, it's adult. So this is something I want to point out, that this is the theme I think Wayfarer can bring out with some of these messages. So the context here is that Jenny Slate is in an Airbnb that Wayfarer has paid for. And there's some sort of a safety issue in the apartment, right? There's like issues with the window or something, and Jenny Slate has a young child, so there's kind of a safety issue, and the apartment is kind of crap. So Jenny makes a joke. She says, my apartment's bad for sex, so I need a new apartment, right? So Justin Baldoni laughs at this comment. I think he repeats it, but he like laughs at the comment, whatever, right? There's some sort of a joke. So they're in a mixed group of people. Slate, Baldoni, and Lively are in it. I'm not sure who else is there. And this is the text message that Jenny Slate sends to Blake Lively about this after the fact. So what she says is, I truly am so sorry that I made that remark about our tiny bedroom in our shitty Airbnb. I think back on it now, referencing that it was bad for sex. And just realizing that that is way inappropriate to say, and I hope you know that I know that it wasn't the setting for that kind of remark. And also now knowing that you guys sleep as a family, it must have just seemed like such a bummer judgment. I'm so sorry. I definitely have no judgment on it, but I'm sure it seemed that way. Regarding
you guys sleep as a family, also, that's so crazy. I'm so sorry. I'm all for being close with your family. I live with my mother.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
they sleep together.
There's 4 kids and they're very different in age.
There goes the sex life, huh?
I mean, well, that's what Jenny's saying, right? It's just what works for me. Not at all trying to say it's what we should be doing. I wish I had not said that. And as you say, we move on, but I do want you to know that I remember it and regret it. So sorry if I made you feel upset. Now, this is happening in the context in May of 2023 with all this other stuff going on that Lively is alleging. And what I want people to notice is that this is a pretty profuse apology for an adult to be giving another adult, right? There's a lot of, please be assured I'm not judging you. Please be assured I'm not making a judgment on your marriage or your family or your life. I am not reading this as these 2 women are friends or that Jenny considers Blake and her to be peers.
I mean, the way it sounds, rereading it now.
Yeah.
And thinking about how it sounds, right? It sounds like somebody who's like, oh my God, you take issue with everything. I hope you don't take issue with this. Please, please, please understand. That's what works for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It does not feel like Jenny is saying this because they are 2 adult women, late 30s, early 40s, talking about whatever. And this is to me, a profuse apology for a very, very short comment that was probably made off the top of her head. And if you're familiar with Jenny's humor, it's completely in line with everything she does. So here's Blake's response. So it starts off interesting to me anyway, because she says, oh my gosh, no worries at all. I mean it at all. You do not need to revisit anything that's been said. That is so generous of you to say this, but that's so not necessary. Please don't stress about any of it. The truth is dynamics are different with women and men, and there is a safety with women that there isn't with men. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is, first of all, I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, so Blake is like saying, oh my God, you don't need to freak out. Like, this is fine. And I'm like, reading it. I'm like, okay. So we're kind of back to normal. And then what she says is, dynamics are different with women and men. You're a woman. So when you made that joke, there's not a problem because you're a woman.
You're allowed to make jokes about sex. You're allowed to talk about your sex life. You're allowed to act in a way that we're telling the men to not.
Right. You're allowed to do it because women are safe and men are unsafe. Right. So but then she says this. Also, they had screwed you on your living situation and you had to ask for something better. So casually making a joke about sex was likely a subconscious way of playing to your audience. If the guy who could authorize moving could empathize, then you and your family would be out of there. It all tracks. This kind of thing is the thing Wayfarer needs to point out. She made up a narrative where they screwed her out of an apartment, like Wayfarer had inspected the Airbnb personally and thought, yeah, fuck her kid. We're going to leave her somewhere unsafe, right?
Which they rectified when she was like, this doesn't work.
Right.
They were like, bet, we'll get you a new place.
Right. So she's saying they screwed you, which is an intent that is just not really justified, right? But you're doing it to try to subconsciously bond with them. Jenny's sense of humor, please look up any of Jenny's comedy, look at her interviews, look at anything she does. She's consistently makes inappropriate jokes and humor. And again, no shade, like that's your humor. But that's my point.
She's very inappropriate humor circa 2012. Like, her role on Girls actually kind of nails who Jenny Slate is for me.
Yeah, like this is her.
Yeah.
This is how she is.
I find this interesting too. I don't think I really looked into this as closely, but this is almost an admission by Blake that this is how she talks to men.
Yeah.
I make sexual innuendo so I can connect with men because I think that all men are sex driven.
Yes. And then the other part here is what this goes to what she's going to be saying later. Why did you say never with teeth? Why did you say this? Why did you have these sexually charged things? And what she's saying is this is a way of bonding with your abuser. This is a way of making them like you. This is what you have to do for men to make them like you, like you said.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. But the narrative that she's making up here is interesting because if you know anything about Jenny Slate, I don't think it's that deep. Like, I think she just made a joke because she makes a joke and that's her humor. And so this is how you put this out there, right? What you say is not only does Lively flat out say women are safe, men are unsafe, but also I'm going to create a narrative where Wayfarer screwed her over and she feels the need to subconsciously bond with these terrible predators so that she can get what's fair and get them to start treating her better. And this is all complete projection and all made up based on Jenny apologizing for a joke. Jenny's taking complete responsibility for the joke, and Lively's focus is taking it off her and putting it on Wayfarer.
Yeah.
And that's how you start the thread here.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go through this other stuff with the Me Too thing. Okay. So it's hard to see here, but let me see if I can make it larger. But okay. So one of the things that comes up, they ask Blake, did you cause or suggest to the cast of It Ends With Us to stop following Baldoni on social media? Blake says straight up, no.
Okay. I would never. I've never done that ever.
She just says no.
Don't look at my past interviews.
Right. So then Colleen says, before the premiere, so this is from Colleen's deposition on the right, before the premiere of the film on August the 6th, you said you unfollowed Justin. She says, And they said, why did you do that? And she says, Blake asked me to. Now I'm going to walk you through the analysis, because there's three explanations. Hoover is lying or misremembering. Lively is lying or misremembering. And I'm going to make room for people don't remember what their conversations were, right? And this is where we get to the technically true, contextually false, right? The only way that Lively can be telling the truth is if because what she says here is Jenny had unfollowed Justin and then her assistant refollowed and Jenny wanted that to change. So what Blake's going to say is, I was just passing along Jenny's will to Colleen. Or maybe she'll say, Colleen did it of her own volition, so I wasn't the cause.
We were talking about unfollowing him ourselves, and Colleen followed along.
Right.
Colleen remembers it as me trying to get her to be on board.
I guess she could also say Colleen's technically not in the cast, although I don't think. But the point is, this is what you want if you're Wayfarer. You want to take this apart and say, what's your logic for answering no? And then she's going to say, well, I'm the messenger, or Colleen makes her own decisions. And this is what you do. You get the jury to realize that when she answers a question, as long as she can say it's technically true in her head, she doesn't think she's lying. Right? You just get it to be like she can't answer a question straightforwardly because she's always going to try to weasel something out of it, weasel another narrative or say this is why it's technically this. And so that's how you then go after. Right.
Which you, the court of public opinion, do not like.
Right.
Juries also do not like that.
Right.
Because it makes somebody look either dishonest or like they're trying to recontextualize things for their favor, for their own favor.
Right. And then either way, what you wind up with the jury is this state of kind of emotional exhaustion, right? I can't listen to anything she says because I am genuinely too cognitively exhausted to parse what it is I'm supposed to be taking out of her testimony, right? I can't she's not saying it in a way that I can comprehend. Okay. Like, I mean, and Kinney says this, just answer the damn question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the next thing is, all right. So we've got the Me Too framing, right? So this is from the in limine motion. Wayfarer wants to eliminate testimony from other women saying, they're not plaintiffs. They're not saying that we sexually harassed them. This is not relevant, right? Okay. So this is Ezra Hudson's response, right? So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what I'm saying is they're going to bring in other women, these 7 women or whatever, because
what page are you on?
I just clipped this from.
Got it.
So I'm not sure. But what they're saying is lively subjective and objective belief that the conduct was unlawful, defendant's false narrative. But then what I want to draw attention to is the collateral effects of that retaliatory campaign on other women associated with the film. Let me explain how this is going to backfire. This is going to backfire onto Blake. And the reason why is because the other women, particularly the other 2 on this film set, did not say they were sexually harassed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing, okay, so this is Colleen, because she does want to introduce Colleen. One of the things that Ezra says is Colleen Hoover had far more involvement than defendants suggest. And they say, Hoover worked closely with Lively on Sony's cut of the film and developed her own independent concerns regarding Baldoni's conduct and editorial decisions. She felt marginalized and exploited by Baldoni, and after witnessing Baldoni and Heath disparage Lively in May 2024, chose to distance herself from them permanently. And the next artwork here on the right, I have that Blake asked me to thing again, right? About how she unfollowed at Blake's request. So at least we have one thing that she did to distance herself from him that was not something she did voluntarily, by herself. Okay.
She also says Hoover also did not appear publicly with Baldoni or Heath, and like other women associated with the film, experienced substantial public backlash resulting from defendants' online smear campaign. I think that actually helps Wayfarer.
Yes, I'm going to, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But I want you guys to keep that in your mind, that part of what they're doing is saying these other women experience the online backlash.
Yes.
Proving there's retaliation. So
right.
Put a pin on that. In your
exactly. Yeah. I think we are on exactly the same page, right? Okay, so from Slate's deposition, this is short and sweet. This is not my lawsuit. They said, is there a reason why you didn't join Lively in the lawsuit? She said, I felt I settled my issues on set and I wanted to move on. Okay, so she also, I forgot to clip this out, but she did say Alex Sachs asked her if she wanted to file an HR complaint. She said it was handled. She didn't want to do that, right? Then there's
also some communications that Blake told her she should file a complaint.
Yeah.
Right. So we have Blake once again being at the center of the issue.
Right.
And making it, you should do this. You should complain.
Here's your narrative, right? So, okay. So then we get to the Isabella thing. Ferrer independently chose to distance herself from Baldoni. Okay, fair enough. She experienced inappropriate and sexualized comments. She also has first knowledge of the public hate and hostility. Okay, fine. So we've got this collateral retaliation. So from her deposition, so they talk about, she says, it wasn't that I wasn't comfortable with it, but I found it to be inappropriate. This is talking about the cookie dough thing. She's saying that she does not like that it's a 16-year-old kind of doing it. And it's
the scene in the book.
Yeah, the scene in the book
that a woman created with her weird, twisted mind.
I mean, so they say, so you felt safe in your ability to perform as an actor? She said, yes. And then they said, so, but not necessarily safe on a more personal level, given his comments that you deemed to be inappropriate. And she said, I think that I felt safe, but I think that even if I felt safe, what he said wasn't appropriate in the way that if I was crossing the street and somebody whistled at me, I may feel like I'm safe from them, but I still think what they do is inappropriate. Okay. Now I want to point out the safe thing because this is why that Instagram thing is coming in, because what she's saying is, I brought this case because of the retaliation I face for privately and professionally asking for a safe working environment for myself and others. And my question is, are these women going to say that they were unsafe? No, they're not, because they already said it in the deposition. This isn't a safety issue for other women. And this is what you're going to hit the jury. She is saying that they were unsafe because this is the narrative that suits her. And this is the PR framing that most benefits her. And you can tell she knows that because she's making Instagram posts about it. Right?
Right.
She is saying that they were unsafe so that she can say we were all unsafe. And then that goes back to this kind of original thing, right? I decide that you're unsafe. You don't get to make that decision. I'm saying that these men are predatory and the things they're doing to you are unsafe. Jenny doesn't get to decide she's unsafe. Isabella doesn't get to decide. Blake gets to decide for them and maybe for Hoover.
Keep in mind too, that comment he made to Isabella was not just to Isabella. He said it to her and her male co-star.
Right.
That scene was hot.
Right.
So that's akin to you and your boyfriend walking down the street holding hands and someone being like, y'all are hot together.
Exactly. The second issue she
That's
has,
not catcalling a woman by herself.
right. And the second issue is that he says to Alex, I want you to get to know Isabella, and then winked at him. Isabella says she didn't know about that at the time, so it did not play a role in her experience on the set of the film. And also, it's a comment made to a man. It's made about a woman, but it's made to a man.
Right.
So the point is, the reason why I'm getting here is because they're saying they're witnesses to the smear campaign and its effect, right? So they're saying Ferrer and Hoover will testify that they experienced the collateral effect of defendants' actions, online backlash, and reputational harm. So first of all, where is Slate in this sentence? It sounds like she's excluded herself from this narrative, but she was also part of the promotion. So is she not going to agree? But then the other part that they point out here is the shift in marketing and narrative surrounding the film, particularly Baldoni's unilateral DV pivot, while designed to harm Lively. So this is it. This is the quiet part out loud. Him talking about domestic violence in a film about domestic violence was to harm Blake.
Which the part I have highlighted that's pulled up on my screen.
Yep.
Talking about Isabella Ferrer. She also firsthand knowledge of public hate and hostility resulting from the retaliatory smear campaign, how the backlash collaterally affected herself and other women associated with the film.
Right.
Also disproving the narrative that Lively's allegedly tone-deaf marketing was the cause of an organic backlash against her. So what they're saying on one hand is, well, allegedly it was Lively's marketing, but also Justin Baldoni unilaterally pivoted against that marketing.
Right.
Which is it?
Right.
Because if that was his marketing plan, why is he unilaterally pivoting from it?
And then I think the thing that you were going to say, and that I kind of realized as well, is so if these women didn't make complaints when they were on the set of the film, but they also were harmed by the marketing, is the marketing retaliatory?
Right.
They didn't make a complaint. They didn't engage in protected activity.
Right.
And so you're saying, well, we all got harmed. We all got retaliated against. They didn't get retaliated against because they didn't make any complaints.
Right.
There's nothing for Wayfarer to retaliate against.
I also think that continuing to point the finger at other people for the marketing is a dangerous move.
Yeah.
Because we all know that Maximum Effort, there's communications that Maximum Effort did the marketing. I don't know how you reasonably say, like, oh, it was allegedly. Okay, so her husband did it. She still had the opportunity to go home and say, the online community does not like this marketing. We have to shift. They're liking what Justin's doing. They're not liking what we're doing.
Right. And Jamie Heath warned them about that and said, we're getting this feedback and I don't think it's going to work. But this is where they flat out say, I mean, the fact that he's talking about DV is intended to retaliate against a woman for having complained about sexual harassment. Not the fact that the film is about DV, not the fact that they've been working with this No More charity for 5 years, not the fact that Colleen Hoover has talked about DV endlessly in regards to this book. He only did it to get back at Blake Lively. And this is where you come back to this text message. She will invent the justification. She will decide that Jenny didn't mean it because those men are horrible and they're horrible to Jenny and Jenny's doing it as a defensive gesture because she's not in reality. Right. She's not able to engage with, she's going to decide who the victims are. She's going to tell the jury who the victims are. She's going to say that the women are always victims, the men are always perpetrators. And she's not going to allow any women to take any responsibility for even for their own humor. Right? Like Jenny's here being like, I'm really sorry if you were offended by that. And this is why I do want to push back on this because I don't see where in any of this Jenny is backing Blake. I think that she knows that she told Blake things and she was ganging up on people and she was threatening to not promote the film because she knew that was power they had because Sony doesn't have a streaming service and they need people to promote the theatrical release or they're not going to make their money back. Right. But now she's backing off. And that's why when you get here, they're saying, well, this is what Ferrer Hoover will testify to because Jenny is saying, get me the fuck out of this.
I also want you guys to hear that again. His discussing domestic violence about a movie centered around domestic violence, about a movie that he bought the rights to because he wanted to highlight how dangerous domestic violence is is retaliation against Lively.
Right.
So all of his motives that he had on paper, that he had discussions about before, don't matter. It just matters that him doing what he set out to do harmed Blake, and that is retaliation.
Isaac says, have you realized how crazy this is? Blake believes she is a victim, but Lily Bloom, who was assaulted, is not a victim because she said so. And I think this is something that Blake struggles with. I think that she feels she's the decider. And that's partially why, if you think about it, that's why the marketing is insensitive, because she doesn't think Lily's a victim.
Right.
So she doesn't understand why she has to ask questions about it.
Right.
So that's, I feel like when I reread this particular text message, that's what strikes me.
Yeah.
Right? They had screwed you on your living situation. What? And you're doing it to try a subconscious way of playing to your audience. And I think I would focus in on the word subconscious, right? This is something I would ask Blake about. What do you think Jenny was thinking subconsciously, right? Because I guess I don't know if she can, I guess you can say, why did you say that, right? Why did you say a subconscious way? And what you focus on is that if Blake doesn't have the justification, she'll just decide that it's there anyway. Mm-hmm. And she'll just go with the narrative that she's invented. So there you go. There's your...
I think that Slate's testimony comes in partly because Blake witnessed what Justin said to Slate.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So Wayfarer asked for Jenny Slate to be excluded for a host of reasons, right? What she complained about doesn't rise to the level of sexual harassment. I think that's a dangerous game. I think that might be reversible error, but it does lead to Blake's understanding of the set.
Right.
So watching Justin make comments to Jenny, now I don't think it helps Blake. So I don't think letting her testify hurts Wayfarer in any way, because she's going to say exactly what she said in her deposition. It was handled in the moment. We moved on.
Yes.
Like adults. And the jury is going to go, why are we here then?
Right.
What the fuck? Right? And if you can really point out that Blake was the center, the North Star for Jenny Slate, turning that into an HR complaint or whatever, right? Her complaining about that to Alex Sachs, then you can come back to, it's always Blake that's the center of every problem. Isabel Ferrer doesn't have a problem. She has a grand old time on set, befriends Blake. All of a sudden, she has a problem with Justin Baldoni. Right?
Right.
They have to thread that needle carefully, but they have to thread that needle anyway. So Isabel Ferrer, they make it seem like the comments were just to her.
Well, somebody said this in the chat about Harvey Weinstein, and I just wanted to point this out. I don't know if stuff like this will come in. It kind of is a weird case because it's like actually something like this could come in if it was part of something that happened in August, right? But what she says here is after initially, this is him talking about how he had good interactions with her. So this is not what I need. But she has said something like this, right? That was never my experience with, wrong tab. That was never my experience with Harvey in any way whatsoever. I never heard any stories like this, but it's devastating to hear, right? In other words, when someone asks her, it's kind of like, well, I never had that issue with him.
Right. He was always nice to me.
He was always nice to me, and it's like, but then, we're kind of over here and it's like, well, Jenny's not saying this, but you're putting that word in her mouth because this is the thing that needs to be true so that later on, this is the framing, right? I was just speaking up for other women's safety. And I'm like, do they know that you're doing that? Do they agree that you're doing that? Who gets to decide if Jenny's safe?
Right.
And why isn't it Jenny?
Right.
Why does Isabella said I was never unsafe? She was in Isabella's she would have known about Isabella's deposition. She's a party and they were deposed, So it's just I don't know.
Yeah, they really try to make it seem like, oh, he made these comments to Isabella. That's not what they're arguing because that's not what happened. He made the comment to both.
Right.
Again, they say she's going to testify to the backlash. Alex Sachs' testimony, I could see going either way because Alex Sachs is going to test. I don't think they fully bar her. She's going to
Right.
testify that to the complaints that were made. But as far as her yelling, or Justin Baldoni allegedly yelling at her, I don't think that comes in, because I think it is character evidence. I think it is saying, look, he's a mean guy. He yelled at a woman once, so he must be also willing to harass them. And I just don't think that goes far enough. Also, Blake Lively was not there, as far as I know. She did not see Justin Baldoni. So
Do this. Yeah.
a lot of this evidence of what happened to other women, Blake Lively is saying this is not to prove that they did this stuff. This is to prove that Blake had the requisite mindset to believe she had a severe and pervasive set that caused her to engage in protected activity. So we're looking at her subjective mindset and whether her subjective mindset was reasonable. It is not reasonable to rely on things you did not know about.
Right. And then I think this is where this comes in, right? Is this reasonable? Does she think that this wasn't,
Right.
Does she just think that when somebody's making a sex joke, they're doing it because, like, this is a kind of interesting reframe, and this is right in the middle of these sexual harassment allegations where the conduct she's alleging would have been taking place.
Right.
So a subconscious way of playing to your audience, it all tracks.
So they're abusive, but you should be flirting sexually with them because that's how you bond with them.
I mean, yeah, and it's just she's reading something in there. I also just feel like I think the jury is going to say, "What do you mean it all tracks? Why do you get to decide what this woman's mindset is?"
Right.
It's just very weird. I also I put this in the center of it. It's not really relevant, but somebody noticed it. The Cher Steve Law stuff. A few people have asked me if I think the jury will hate her and if that will be bad on Wayfarer because they are calling her as a witness. I don't think it's going to matter because I think they're going to say she exists. She's going to be representative. They know that celebrity gossip exists. They know people like Perez Hilton or whoever exist. They know that she is a person and an archetype that exists.
Right.
And even if they don't like her, the point is that she's not connected to Wayfarer. In fact, even if she's memorable enough, they might even be like, but aren't there just kind of assholes in the media who are on YouTube and commenting about things? I mean, that's what we are.
Right. Also, every single graph that Blake's experts discuss, the baby bump video causes a spike.
Yeah.
So that baby bump video needs to come in to give context to the jury of what that spike is.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how you keep Cher Steve Law out.
Yeah.
And then explain to a jury why there's this sudden spike.
Yeah.
Because you need her to authenticate that video. You need to have her give context as to why she uploaded it. Right. I don't know how you bar that and then say, describe the retaliation, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and then work around that. And then, but Zane says, yeah, she's assuming, so this is about those text messages. She's assuming when she can just ask her because she's talking to her. And that's exactly what you do. Right. That's exactly how they talk about this. Why are you assuming this? And aren't you assuming this so that this is the framing, right? Everybody's together, right? Basically, your own credibility is shot. So you're bringing in other people. Oh, she's muted. But yeah, she's bringing in other people so that it makes it sound like there's more going on,
Right. Christy Hall is another people they asked to be left out. I'll be honest with you. I do not remember the content of Christy Hall's testimony at all.
I don't either.
Couldn't tell you. So she's so unmemorable.
Yeah, I don't know what she's gonna.
Apparently, she says Hall told Sachs Baldoni did not respect her as a female voice, and she did not want to be associated or do press with him because of his dismissive behavior. There is a citation to that. That is not a direct quote. So that is Hudson giving us her interpretation of what Hall said. I think that's a red flag. So I will go through and read those citations later. I didn't have time to. And by I didn't have time to, I mean, I went running and laid around all weekend.
Valid.
Sorry I touched grass, and by grass in the desert I mean dirt. we don't have grass. Colleen Hoover, we talked about, they're trying to keep her in. I do think Colleen Hoover is going to come in and testify at least about the circumstances. I don't know how you keep Colleen Hoover out because she's so interwoven with Blake's mindset. She's having conversations with Blake about what's going on. She's having conversations with Justin and Jamie about what's going on. I don't know how you keep Colleen Hoover out, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think too, notice just scrolling through Colleen's deposition, I don't have anything that directly contradicts her yet. But one of the things she said is that Blake was telling me all sorts of things about what Justin was doing and that he was consistently making changes and saying the author wants it this way. And then, of course, you've got the religion thing where reportedly he told people he converted her to the Baha'i faith. I do think if Blake told Colleen that and that isn't true, I think the jury just thinks that the Colleen is just another victim of this triangulation of this. Right. Look, another example where she is telling a person that they are a victim. She's just making it up.
I also think if they do try to take the angle that she's smearing their faith, which I haven't actually seen any evidence they're going to take that angle.
Right.
But I think it also looks bad because now it looks like Blake is further smearing them by calling them a cult.
Right.
Right? That Blake is further trying to triangulate people against them, using their religion against them.
Right.
Which I just don't think plays well with a jury. Now, they could be a xenophobic jury who also thinks Baha'i is cult-like.
Mm-hmm.
We could get some xenophobia mixed into the jury, and it may not play as bad as I think it is. But this idea that our right to freedom of religion is so deeply ingrained in us as Americans, and when you get people serving justice, mm-hmm. that those ideas of what justice are going to seep into this decision, even if it's not explicitly made. Right? Our concepts of justice are necessarily interwoven with our constitutional rights.
Right.
So I just don't think it plays well, but who knows?
Here's what I think one of the other things they're going to do with the cult thing. Not actually Golden brought up that she thought part of the reaction, and she kind of framed how they would bring this up to Blake. Part of her reaction was that she was at a career high, and then she had a career low with all of this backlash. There's another pressure point here with the religious stuff. Lively, so the coffee table book. We don't know very much about this coffee table book, but what we do know is that Wayfarer, Baldoni, whoever, wanted to make a coffee table book talking about the creation of the film, right? And that Lively was very pissed off about this book existing. She did not consent to use her image for it, and this became a point of contention. And according to Warren Zavala, one of his text messages, he thought this was kind of the motivation for why Lively said she didn't want to go to the premiere, that she had taken back why she didn't want him at the premiere. She said she wasn't going to promote the film with him if this coffee table book happened. And I've been thinking about this, and I think another way of bringing the Baha'i stuff and the cult comments in without necessarily putting the religion on trial is pointing out that when she's telling Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, these people in the industry who presumably she wants to maintain relationship with whoever this Lewis person is that she was texting, she's saying, he's in a cult. It's like going clear. I'm going to make a film, lights, cult, action. It reminds me of Room, she says, it reminds me of The Room, or even just Room. So The Room is a film about an inept director, which is kind of funny. Or Just Room is a film where Brie Larson is trapped in a basement and forced to give birth to her rapist child, right?
Yeah.
So she is over the top on some of these comparisons. And so the question is she biting off more than she can chew? She's telling everyone things like, Sony took the film from him and gave it to me because he's so inept and he's so bad at this. He doesn't know what he's doing. So then the question is, if the coffee table book comes out and people find out he worked on the film, that ruins her credibility with the people that she's been lying on him to this whole time. If he goes to the premiere and he says, I loved making the film and I want to direct the sequel and I have all these plans, people in the industry are going to say, I thought that Blake said that Sony got rid of him and gave her the movie because he was bad at his job. And now he's out here acting like he and Sony enjoyed working together. So I think the argument is she has so oversold the idea that he is this religious freak, that he thinks he's the prophet of a new religion, that he's this evil guy, that it's a cult, that they're never going to work with Sony. Wayfair's never going to work with Sony because the studio is at one point she says the only reason he has the rights to the film is because the cult funded it. So it's not just about Baldoni, it's also about Wayfarer. It's about the studio being bad at their job.
Right.
And then now she's sold this so heavy to her own personal contacts in the industry that if he shows up and they're looking like they're on the carpet together, people who know her are going to be like, I thought he was inept. I thought Wayfarer was a cult.
Yeah.
So she boxed herself in.
So they're asking about Penn being Baha'i. Here is the history as I know it. I don't know much about Penn Badgley other than that one dance video in the hallway. And I always say he's invited to the dance party.
With Katie uses that for everything. Is that what that
everything.
is?
Yeah.
Okay. He's like,
I've seen some of his work, whatever. Okay. So he's in Gossip Girl. They date and then they break up. And then years later, he converts to Baha'i. So he was not Baha'i. I don't think that has anything to do with their breakup. Whether or not she even knows he's Baha'i, hard to say. We know she at least keeps up with one of her exes, and that's Ben Affleck.
Don't hang up.
Don't hang up. Okay. Claire Ayub. They're trying to exclude Claire Ayub. I think they have a great argument for this. They say Blake says she had similar experiences with Baldoni on her own set. That has nothing to do with Blake. And that has nothing to do with this workplace. We are wondering if this workplace is severe and pervasive enough that Blake's subjective belief is that it's severe and pervasive. Who cares about what happened over here?
If she didn't know about it at the time, it can't have contributed to her subjective belief.
They go on later to say that they're going to try and get the recording Claire made of Steve into trial to show the retaliatory motive. That's hearsay now because he is no longer a party opponent.
Right.
Hudson doesn't seem to understand hearsay. Neither does Gottlieb. So.
She doesn't seem to know who's still in the case. That link I showed you, she mentions
every time these two mention hearsay, I'm like, did you read the rule?
Yeah,
you're wrong.
She mentions about Justin Baldoni in the car and saying, I crossed boundaries when I was a teenager. And she says, this evidence is plainly admissible as a statement by a party opponent.
No,
Justin Baldoni isn't a party opponent anymore.
Yeah.
So no, it isn't.
Yeah. So I don't think Claire's stuff comes in. This idea that it's proof of retaliation, I don't really think it is. I mean, I didn't call her, so I can't testify to that, but you've heard the testimony here today, folks.
Lauren says, Ezra Hudson doesn't even understand how to answer an email or confirm she sent a subpoena.
You've heard the victim's testimony. No, I mean, so Ezra Hudson wrote this opposition to the motion in limine, and I will say she likes to drone. She's not as clear and concise as Bach and Shapiro are.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who also writes like Ezra Hudson does, I struggle with this because I'm like, I have to read my own shit that sounds like this all the time. I'm also not a great legal writer. So like, I'm not trying to point fingers and be like, you're bad and I'm good, because I'm not. I have excellent courtroom skills. That's like it. But this was really hard to read. They're circular. She comes back to things later that I'm like, okay, girl, get to the point. All that to say, I don't think Claire Ayub is coming in. You can just say she dumb. I mean, I'm not going to say that, but like, I didn't not say it.
I cannot confirm or deny.
Hard to say. Hard to say. Finally, Liz Plank. I don't know how Liz Plank comes in. Liz Plank warning Blake, maybe I could see coming in as just like, other people were telling me to watch out for these guys, but I don't know how that feeds into her subjective belief that what she's experiencing is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else told her they had a bad experience, and now Blake is looking for it. To me, that subjectively kind of cuts against her. But I just don't think Liz Plank, her testimony doesn't make any fact more or less true, right?
Right. I think also these things are kind of easy to impeach, right? Because Liz comes in, she says, it was the worst day of my life. Here's your Instagram comments where you were saying he was great. Love you, Justin. You know, you're working with the Wrexham stuff, right? So you already knew Ryan and Blake. And you can ask her about it, because you're not doing it to, you're just saying, hey, did you know Ryan and Blake? And yeah, because you worked on that Wrexham show with them.
And you were friends with them. And in fact, they have financial ties to your new business.
Right.
Allegedly, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you guys know each other, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the same thing with Colleen. Colleen and Justin were great until she met Blake. And we've got all this religious stuff. Isabella's the same way, right? And that's what I see in Isabella and Jenny Slate's depositions. I don't see them taking her side. I see two women acknowledging that they were all having a shit-talking fest with each other. They brought up things that pissed them off, and they're completely within their right to do that. And then Lively turns this into, well, this is what I needed to be. So you guys were victims of abuse, and you were unsafe, and you needed to do this. And I just don't know if they're going to, I don't think they're going to testify that way.
Yeah, I think even if they come in, okay, so we had you guys put a pin in something earlier about how these women are going to testify that they also experienced the online backlash. Doesn't that in itself prove that it was not a targeted retaliatory campaign against Blake?
Right.
So other people were experiencing this based on the promo you were doing.
Right.
And you want us to believe, so they just, despite their communications, were smearing everybody. There's no proof of that in the community. So she's going to point to the communications. She's going to pound that they communicated that they were going to smear me, even though that's absolutely not what they said. Right? She's going to point to the communications as proof of the retaliatory campaign directed at her. And simultaneously, these witnesses are going to say, I also experienced online backlash. So, which is it? Did you all receive backlash? And therefore, the retaliatory campaign was what? Just directed at all the women?
Right. And that's why she needs them to now be kind of co-victims.
Right.
I do think, you know, there's text messages between Melissa Nathan and Jason Sunshine, where Melissa Nathan, this is obviously triple hearsay at this point, but Melissa Nathan says that Brian Friedman talked to Jenny Slate's manager and her agent, and that Melissa's hearing through the grapevine that WME is trying to get Jenny to join the case. And Jenny's manager and agent said, no, she's not interested in that. And that's why I think they asked her in her deposition, why aren't you a plaintiff? So that she can say, you know, I was never unsafe.
Yeah.
Can
they really isolate all the backlash to that smear campaign? Seems like a lot of factors that could be at play. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm driving at, right? Like, if it's a smear campaign, that backlash would have been more solely targeted at Blake. You would think.
Well, and the narratives that her expert lays out don't involve the other women.
So, to me, it just shows that the internet organically did not like the marketing campaign, organically did not enjoy how they were marketing this movie, and everybody who was a part of that marketing campaign saw some backlash. Right. It was also directed towards Brendan Sklenar. Exactly. Brandon Sklenar, whatever his name is. Vanilla Chris Pine. I don't know. He looks like every other actor in Hollywood right now.
Timu Thor, is that that's I've seen
Timu Thor, yeah. So I think a couple of these women could come in, especially Slate. I don't think Slate is getting dismissed or her testimony is getting excluded. But there was another thing I wanted to bring up in Blake's statement. If you don't mind. Okay.
Go for it. So this was on Instagram. So she said, the last thing I wanted in my life was a lawsuit, but I brought this case because of the pervasive retaliation I faced and continue to for privately and professionally asking for a safe working environment for myself and others. And now she's talking about anticipatory retaliation. Mm-hmm. Where was this in the statement?
Mm-hmm. The anticipatory retaliation, I am struggling to wrap my mind around. So basically, you can get someone who's going to, the case law, as I understand it, says anticipatory retaliation is where there's a detrimental work action, right? Whether it's firing or moving them closer to the bathroom, whatever. If you think that they're going to, if you have a good faith basis that they are going to engage in protected activity. And Blake just wants it to be, if somebody subjectively believes there was bad acts, whether or not those bad acts rise to the level of sexual harassment, which hers did not, that if your employer takes action against you at all because you subjectively believe there's sexual harassment when there isn't, that's retaliation.
And it doesn't even matter if you're like, in the statute of limitations for reporting sexual harassment, which is 300 days.
I hope Ezra Hudson is about to retire, because if she was defending my company and making arguments like this for a plaintiff, I'd fire her ass so fucking fast. Like, I'd be like, I don't want you as my attorney anymore because you're trying to make this case law. Oh, no, thank you. You're harming my business.
Right. That as long as the employee was thinking about it. Okay.
Prickly Pear, is that a Roy Kent? Are you alluding to Roy Kent? She's here. She's there. She's there. Fucking where? Blake's case. Ted Lasso is my comfort show. I have watched it so many times. It is on in the background when I'm working. Like when I'm doing something mindless, Ted Lasso is on. I love you. Yeah, so I don't know, with these 7 women, again, it's not 11 like the internet would have you believe.
I always heard 9. I've never heard 11. That's a lot.
It got bumped up. It started at 7.
Okay.
And then it went to 9.
Okay.
And the graphic changed. Some people got removed. Some people got added. Stephanie Jones was notoriously one of them, who is not on this list now.
Okay.
And then it went up to 11. And I was like, I can't keep track of y'all's narrative anymore.
Okay. Now we're at 7.
And now we're at 7. But, I just don't. I don't think everybody helps inform the jury on the issues that are before us. I think some of this is impermissible character evidence. And ultimately, if these women do all testify to all of this information, I still don't see it helping Blake.
I don't either.
Chat, answer us. Did it help Blake for any of you? Hearing their testimony? Like, did you hear Claire Ayoub's recording and read her contradictory under oath statement and go, oh, well, that changed my mind?
I mean, I think you're getting to a point where the jury is like, you're just telling people, you don't want the jury to sit there and think that any of this is petty. That's the thing. You don't want the jury to sit there and have a big lead up with 7 women. And then it's like, well, we got in an argument about the budget for the film.
Right.
Or he raised his voice at me and I told him not to do it and he never did it again. Or Jenny Slate saying, he says, your pants look sexy. And she said, don't do it again. And he never did.
Do you know how many times I've been yelled by my boss, both male and female, at work?
Right.
It happens, especially in high stress situations.
And the point here is that, like, if you start bringing things in, you run the risk that they're going to sit there and they're going to say this woman is a spoiled brat, right? She's rich. She comes in, she's going to wear those fuck ass red shoes. That's coming, right? And Blake or your lawyers, if you're watching this, ditch them for the love of God.
Do not look rich.
Do not dress rich. Do not dress rich.
No Coach,
wedding ring, not that engagement ring, just your wedding ring. I mean, don't wear the red shoes. They will notice. Jurors will notice fucking everything. And, you run the risk of looking like she's just gathering random things to throw at the wall because she knows she doesn't have a case. And yes, jurors will notice this too.
So Lively backs herself into a corner that I don't think that I think limits who gets to come in, including bars Claire Ayub completely.
Mm-hmm.
This evidence is offered to establish the reasonableness of Lively's state of mind, to demonstrate the objective reasonableness of her belief, to rebut defendant's claim that Lively orchestrated opposition to Baldoni, which Hoover doesn't,
Right.
and to challenge the defendant's asserted justification that their retaliatory actions were reasonably defensive. To say that these are about her state of mind and about her belief that these women experience bad workplaces, I think it makes her look petty.
Mm-hmm.
I think it means, like, to your point, that she's rewriting the narrative and making other people feel unsafe for her own benefit.
Right.
Again, at the center of every drama between Justin and someone else's Blake.
Mm-hmm.
It's even when it's about Justin's behavior, it's always Blake driving the bus. Oh,
Right.
that's inappropriate. You should do something about it.
Right.
That's inappropriate. You should make a complaint.
And that's why I think Jenny is a weak witness for her, because it's like Jenny had this interaction. It blew it off in the moment. And it was when she saw how Blake was upset by her own comment that she thought, okay, let's address this. And, I think this was a very good thing for her to do. I think this is a stand-up thing for her to do, to say, I'm going to kind of jump in front of this because, and this is going back to that text message that I can't keep looking at, is like the way that she's so profusely apologizing. It does make me wonder if she's concerned about Blake, her mental health or her status, because this does seem like an over the top kind of apology. So was she getting in front of it because she wanted, she thought, well, Blake isn't in the state to do it herself.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. I'm really curious if Lively's going to give up the red bottoms for court. I can really see her being delusional, arguing to wear them because they give her confidence. She's best off not wearing them. This is the least of her issues, but I think if she goes in wearing them, it will tell you that she's probably not listening to jury consultants. She's probably not really taking that feedback, which I think we already know.
She's going to wear something expensive. I can almost guarantee it.
She did bring a $200 bag to court, the green bag, the one that I basically got a dupe of. So I will give her that. It was only $200, which is cheap in her world.
Spending $200 on a purse to me is crazy, but do you?
But in her world, it's, she comes across as a snowflake with these allegations. If she wants real problems, I'll share mine with her. This is a risk. This is a huge risk. Give me $160 million because he called my outfit sexy.
Yeah, and the jury will be told this is not about your workplace. You have to get into her mind. You have to, whether her actions are reasonable, but people are still going to see this through the lens of everybody's had a job.
Right. And to some degree, this is going to be fair because it's an employment law case, right? So they're saying like, the problem with employment law cases is that everybody's had a job.
Right.
So they're going to have their own, that's why with jury selection, like in this case, you want people, I don't know, actually, because it's an artistic work environment.
I just want you to think too, like you're hearing testimony that he yelled at someone and then later apologized.
Right.
That they got somebody an Airbnb and then later got her a new one. That he said, I'm sorry. And actually, I think he issued written notes to Slate about his commentary, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So everybody's going to be like, well, my boss doesn't apologize to me when he fucking yells at me, right? Like, you're going to have people that are like, I get yelled at worse than that, and nobody ever apologizes to me. What is going on here?
Right. Like, this is what you're, Prickly Pear says, did you think her outfit for the mediation was a good jury look? For I'm assuming the settlement conference, other than the fact that she matched with Justin Baldoni. If she hadn't done that, it would have been great. But because the articles are like twinning, it's like, oh, well, that backfired. Yeah.
She was wearing what? Ryan's jacket?
It emulated that. It wasn't. It was a woman's suit. Okay. It looked similar.
It looked big on her.
She had a flower that I kind of feel, I think it looks like something a kid might give their mom. It just made me think that one of her kids like pinned it to her jacket or something. That's cute. Do that.
Sure.
You know, that's a good like reminder you have kids.
Yeah.
Um, you know. So other than that, I mean, but it was still she still had the fuck ass shoes. Just $4,000. I mean, the purse, she had a Chanel backpack though, but the purse she had was like $250. And I was like obsessed with this green purse. So I bought like a dupe. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it was an interesting choice. Um, yeah, I mean, let's see. Guys, would we talk about clothes if this was a man? Good point. And honestly, no, we wouldn't. We wouldn't. But I do think that with her, the fashion's going to come up in multiple ways as well.
We had a jury consultant. She came in for one of our mock trial. She came in for the mock trial kids.
Yeah.
When I was helping coach mock trial, and she actually did give feedback to the guys about how they looked. But I
Right.
will say that men's suits are pretty much blue, white shirt underneath, black, white shirt underneath,
Right.
maybe brown. Like, I think one guy wore pinstripes. She was like, don't do that.
Yeah. There's certain, and
Don't,
don't wear too expensive shoes, you know.
don't wear too expensive shoes. But like, the men do get feedback, but also their fashion is this.
Yeah.
Women's fashion is because we're cooler.
Yeah, and I mean, I think too, she has a very distinctive fashion sense. And if I thought she was just going to wear a suit, and a lot of people do just wear a suit, I wouldn't be talking about it. But I think she's going to do color. I think there's going to be subtle things. I think she's going to Easter egg thing. You know what I mean? Like she does use fashion in an interesting way. There's tons of people that we've worked with that like are just gonna. They're like, I'm just gonna wear pants and a nice shirt, and we're like, that's it. That's all we need.
I wear a gray suit when I'm in a man's
I was
court.
quoting Blake from the Chersti interview. And we're like, no, let's legitimately talk about the clothing.
I would ask about the men's clothing. Poor Chersti. That breaks my heart when she's like, I wonder if they would ask if they, like, not even responding to this woman. Just, I wonder if they, like, collective media, you do not matter to me. You're an underling. And Chersti's response where she's like, I would. That breaks my heart. And when a jury sees that, they're going to be like,
yeah.
Oh, so she's just like this.
She just has an uncanny ability to piss people off.
Yeah.
And then I think that Forbes interview was coming in, and the Forbes interview sets the tone. You know, she's flat out saying, I tell people what they want to hear. I tell the director what they want to hear, which of course, you know, they'll be able to bring up in, you know, closing arguments if they can't get it in another way. Do you think she's just telling you guys what you want to hear? You know, because this is what she does. She makes up a narrative. It's whatever she needs. And the facts, she'll fill those in later, you know?
The weight comments, I could see those coming in, even though the judge was like, that doesn't rise to gender-based discrimination. I could see him letting that in because that was a part of her subjective belief that the workplace was unsafe. Again, I don't see that playing in her favor because
he just out how to argue against it too.
There was a lift scene, wasn't there? Yes.
Well, and he even said, like, Lively texted and said, I want to lose 20 pounds before we get there. So she put her weight at issue. And this is also like part of the, you know, part of the framing of the film. Your appearance is part of the film. So it's like, you know, when Limine is saying this isn't reasonable, he's also mapping out how you attack it, right?
And I also want to really recognize, like, I can be sensitive to somebody being sensitive about their weight and also recognize it's not a reasonable, severe and pervasive claim for your workplace.
Right.
Especially in this context, right? If her boss, like if my boss was like, so how much do you weigh? It'd be like, bro, why? I mean, I'd tell him because I don't care, right? But I want to be sensitive to the fact that she is postpartum. She exists in an industry where your physical appearance is everything. So like, I'm actually really sensitive to her being sensitive to this.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, this just feeds into the fact that she doesn't have anybody that actually loves her because she was clearly struggling coming back from her pregnancy. She was very insecure. I don't know if she's just like that, but she's very insecure. To me, she shows some postpartum issues. And nobody was saying, hey, Blake, maybe we should take a beat before going back to movie making. Hey, Blake, do you really think you're in the right mindset? Do we think we should maybe get some therapy simultaneously instead of going into making this movie with very heavy content? Her best friend did not show up for her. Her husband did not show up for her. Her sisters did not show up for her. Her mother did not show up for her. She was failed by everybody.
Or they did, and she didn't.
Yeah, or they did, and she didn't hear it.
So Jill says, but this isn't an SH case. Why would that come in for retaliation? Am I missing something? It speaks to her subjective belief that that's part of one of the elements of retaliation. She has to have the good faith belief that there might be a violation of some sort of discrimination law. It doesn't have to actually get found that way by a jury. It doesn't have to be valid. It just has to be a good faith subjective belief.
Right.
So we're saying that.
And I could see the judge going either way. This is not about sexual harassment. I could also see the judge going, I don't know, it goes to her mindset, let it come in. Again, either way, I think given the context of why Justin is asking her weight, hey, I want to be able to bench as much as she weighs. So, like, what does she weigh? Okay.
And then he got hospitalized for a back issue at some point. So it's not even, I don't think this is a hard sell to a jury.
No.
So,
not to be sympathetic, but she can't work when she wants because it has to be around Ryan's schedule. So to be fair, she probably can't consider her health like her husband. I think that's a fair, I think we should be sympathetic.
Yes.
Because I think if we demonize her, it doesn't help us to move past what's actually happening here.
Right. The strategy is sympathy. You need to be able to see it,
both in court and in life.
Yeah.
If you can sympathize with the people you absolutely hate and sort of understand where they're coming from, not to excuse their behavior, but to understand their why, it really will help you. That makes them a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's useful to have insight. I think, and yeah, from the litigation strategy thing, it's if you can see how she's making decisions and you can see the story that you're going to need to tell the jury, and that's kind of where they're at. And I think the story they're going to tell is the story moves to where she needs it to go. The narratives are what she needs them to be. They're not consistent. They're ever changing. And when you're dealing with someone who's ever changing, you have to prepare for every eventuality.
Yeah.
And that's,
and none of this is to infantilize her either. She's making her own decisions, but depression doesn't really let you make your own decisions. Right. And that's where we need community. That's where we need our friends and family to reflect us back to us, even when it's something we don't want to hear. Hey, babe, you're not in the mindset for this.
Right. You're not ready.
I'm really sorry. I know you think the timing is right, what with Ryan and all, but it's not your time, babe. So. She went back for work only 8 weeks postpartum. That's absurd for a woman with resources. Also, why her baby was sick constantly from all that traveling. Yeah, I mean, I don't. It is a little hard, I think, for people to look at something like that and be totally sympathetic because it's like, girl, you don't work and you have all the resources in the world.
Right.
And we're supposed to feel sorry for you that you had postpartum and couldn't get through something. I mean, I understand. I truly do understand why people feel the way they feel about her. But I don't know. Okay, the weight issues preclude evidence concerning alleged sexual assault.
I think they should keep it in. I think they should keep it in.
I know. I'm like,
if I'm Brian Friedman, I'm keeping it in, and I am absolutely obliterating the security guard.
The security guard doesn't look great. I think you can cross him and destroy him.
Agreed.
So did they talk about this? Well, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't
Right.
remember. I don't remember. Oh, but you remember in vivid detail this part of the conversation.
Yeah.
The part of the conversation that helps your boss out
Right.
in this case.
I also think just because he doesn't seem, you know how like Jed Wallace seems very prepared for a deposition. He's answering like a good little deponent, and this guy is not prepared. I think he's going to get on the stand and he's going to say something he didn't say in his deposition.
Yeah.
He's going to say, "Oh, I remembered."
I also think her confusing the jury with this guy is an assaulter, and bringing, I think it's overselling. It's like you said, she's going too far. And I think what they're gonna do is be like, what was all that about?
Yeah.
What the hell are we talking about?
I think it's confusing and distracting for the jury in a good way for Wayfarer.
I also think this, like, I've crossed boundaries and lines in my teens and 20 and not even thinking about it because of the corn I was consuming. You like how I dropped the F-bomb 40 times, but I won't say the P word. Monetize that shit. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think that's easily explained away where he's like, I knew that I had done harm because that's what I was learning from the one thing that was teaching me about sex were these websites.
Right.
And then when I grew up and I realized I didn't want to be that way, I didn't want to be someone that caused harm.
Right.
I changed my behavior. And that was part of my impetus for making this movie, actually. Is I want to teach boys and men with my platform that we can treat women better.
They are going to testify to something that Baldoni has said in multiple TED Talks. Like this is, and then the question is going to be, do you think that he has given a TED Talk, said it 5 different times, 5 same ways, like said it over and over. And then when he was around Blake Lively's security guard, he said, let me say this in the worst possible fucking way. Or do you think maybe the security guard is not really remembering this correctly?
Right. Like, this is his narrative. This is his public narrative.
Right. This isn't the first time he's ever recounted this. He said it on the podcast. He said it in TED Talks. Like he talks about this. So now he's decided, well, you guys are going to get you guys are going to get the version that makes me look like shit. And then, as Prickly Pear says, for me, it's that he can't remember what he did to protect Blake Lively after that meeting. Yeah. So he said this was an absolutely horrific thing that he said, and he shouldn't have said it, but then I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God. I was appalled. I didn't say anything though.
Oh, Alex said, what's with this touching of the arm thing she just added, and is this allowed? I'm guessing that's what the assistant testified to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if that's what she testifies to.
Which is like, they're saying like he touches her arm. So again, they're trying to bring in touch somebody without consent, right? He's touchy. It's a hugging set. He's too touchy. He's too physical.
Right.
He touches her arm and says, and this stays in this car. This thing that you've said on public platforms, half a dozen times, stays in this car. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand how
I don't have the deposition, so I don't know what this person said. And at this point, I don't trust that Ezra Hudson is saying this correctly. Like she says, grabbed her arm. I don't know if let me see the deposition before we say grabbed.
Yeah. Yeah. Ezra has a way of not being quite credible in her characterizations of the testimony and evidence.
Right.
I would bet good money Ezra drafted Claire Ayoub's deposition or sworn affidavit. I would bet $1 at least.
Yeah, and that's.
I have zero sympathy for her because she has zero regrets and zero accountability. Steve, yeah, I mean, fair, right? Somebody who shows they just don't give a shit about anybody else around them and uses people as pawns. I can see being like, why would anybody care about how your feelings? And I think that's a fair takeaway.
Let's see. I mean, I saw Not Actually Golden's video, and she brought up a really good point, which is basically Lively needs the experts. Wayfarer can live without them. Like they can just do this on the facts, and Lively needs these experts to come in.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I think her experts get ripped apart too, though. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're right to move to exclude them because
yeah,
that's the right move, but to get them on the stand and just rip them apart is like, so you used an AI model that's not reliable.
yeah.
You didn't include a data set that includes negative publicity about her back in May of 2023. Like, it's just so easy to rip them apart.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Tedder, if this is assuming she still has all three claims, if it goes down to breach of contract, I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what that looks like.
Oh, that was something else I did notice. I'm probably not gonna find it. We're gonna call it here in a minute, but they talk about how some of the evidence goes towards retaliation under the contract. And Ezra confuses the contractual language of what retaliation is with the legal terminology of. So what Ezra Hudson is trying to do is backdoor retaliation
Right.
through this contract, which is not the contract claim that
works.
can be made. The
Right.
face of the contract says retaliation is sarcasm, eye rolling, changing demeanor. The retaliation under the law is something different. And I thought it was very noticeable that Ezra doesn't know the difference between what the contract claim is and what retaliation is under the law. Yeah. Whether that's on purpose or not, I don't know. Again, this was very long and rambly, and
I hate her lawyers for her. I hate her lawyers. I think I'm not saying her lawyers are, unethical. I know there's a high bar for what you actually claim, but it does feel like, there's a financial incentive to just keep this shit show going.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the thing. That's kind of like what you were saying with her going back to work. Like maybe people are having the come to Jesus talk, and
yeah,
she won't hear it, or like Molly McPherson thinks Ryan is just completely running the show.
I tend to fall into that camp, to be honest.
That's fair.
Which is not to say that Blake doesn't have some autonomy and, whatever. But even if that autonomy is, if he's so abusive, leave that man. But I don't know.
Okay. I mean, maybe I feel like I'm starting to learn the actual how this works at trial. So let me know if I'm right about this. The Sony stuff isn't automatically in, but Lively said in her deposition that Sony was like telling her that they thought the marketing was inauthentic, or the backlash was inauthentic, or she's talking about Sony. So all you really need to get her to do is to say that Sony was endorsing me and Sony was supporting me in some way, and then you bring in the Sanford Panish terrorist thing. Is that
to impeach her?
Okay.
So you're saying they were saying this?
Yeah, but here's what they were saying.
They were also saying this, weren't they?
Right. Okay. So
didn't they also call you a fucking terrorist?
Right. I personally, I think Sony stays in, or at least Limine kicks this can down the road with Sony, because I think the question is, I don't know that the Darvo expert is coming in, but like she's relying on Sony as like a co-abuser thing. So I don't know.
And we've said it before, we're going to say it again. Pointing a finger at Sony, which she does, and she cannot run from anymore because her experts point a finger at Sony. Bringing in that evidence and testimony is going to hurt her. Her own expert testimony is going to hurt her.
Because the
Frade testimony, the Darvo expert, letting that in would be crazy, because she took emotional intentional infliction of emotional distress off the table.
Yeah.
She said, I don't want to reveal my medical history. So to let somebody come in and say she might have experienced these things,
Right.
but
And
I
it's
didn't
like,
look at anything that you would look at to actually intelligently discuss that. That's crazy to me. No, thank you.
yeah, I mean, it's going to, again, it just muddies things. And I promise you, from the jury perspective, the more issues you start throwing in there and the more defendants and people that aren't really sued and people that aren't really here to defend themselves, the more the jury just says, what can I do to be done with this? And the option they have here is to just say, I don't think retaliation happened. And then
Yeah.
that's it. We've solved everything.
I mean, with Alex Sachs too, because both Jenny and Blake went to Alex Sachs with complaints.
Yeah.
Alex Sachs, so who did you go to? You went to
Right.
Wayfarer and you're saying they dismissed the complaints, even though we got a written apology for one of them. You didn't go to, you had higher ups too, right? Did you
Right.
go
Why
to
didn't,
anybody else? Why aren't you pushing this?
right.
Because you didn't believe it was severe and pervasive, or just because you weren't doing your job?
And then we've got Ange, and Ange just says they didn't like him. They didn't like him. That was the issue. They didn't like him.
Right.
And I still feel like Ange is the fucking problem for Blake. Because she's just like, I don't know what I'm looking at. They didn't fucking like him. That was the issue. And I feel like the jury's going to be like, that does make sense.
Is Ange testifying in person, or is she
Right now it's by
via
deposition.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if she's coming in or not. It'd be great if she came in.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, Sonia's like,
why are we here?
Why are we here?
I mean, if Ange, I think if Ange comes live, that says something about Sony and Wayfarer, right? Like that says something about their future together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But I think, you know, my big contribution is that Jenny Slate text message. I think this is where, you know, you pull this up, you pull this snippet in front of the jury, and then you ask Jenny on the stand, you know, she's saying that you were, she's saying, you know, they had screwed you on your living situation. Would you agree with that? Do you think that Wayfarer intended for you to have a poor living situation? Did you feel like they had done something wrong, you know, to you? Did you feel like you were doing this, you know, how would you characterize your sense of humor? You know, would you feel like,
and worst case scenario, she testifies, yeah, I thought at first they were screwing me out of a good situation. And when I complained, they fix it.
right.
Okay.
Right. It's just, yeah. I mean, my understanding, Zane, is that she picked it. It just wasn't great. I don't think Wayfair scouts out homes for people, but maybe they do. I don't know. There was one other.
The one other thing I want to talk about is the motion to preclude evidence and arguments relating to pretrial filings and the sanctions. She is saying this is central to her retaliation, that this is a part of the retaliation. And, you know, she wants to take the wins that she got in discovery that are normally not admissible and let the jury know, look, the judge agreed with me with some of these discovery motions. They dismissed our complaint. That should come in as retaliation. I think that's a dangerous line for the court to draw, especially when we're talking about, you know, some of it is she's talking about spoliation of evidence, and that should come in, right? All right, fine. If the court decides there was spoliation, I doubt it.
That would be right.
Fine. But the evidence includes evidence of various publicity stunts, statements, and a digital campaign defendants and their agents engaged in order to make hay out of their retaliatory lawsuit and maximize its harmful effort on Lively. What you are saying is that what you do in court then can be retaliatory, which can. I'm not denying that. But what they're saying is then we get to bring in all sorts of evidence of pretrial motions where we fought about this in order to make conduct in a litigation admissible in order to shape the jury's perception of the lawyer litigating this case.
Right. And then, and I think what Limine will hopefully point out if he does deny this is, this gives you an incentive to file a sanctions motion in the hope that you can get the motion in front of the jury later, even if it doesn't get granted.
Exactly.
Right. So you can just put anything on the docket and then later on you get to say, well, law of the case, right? Yeah, they're just, hey, we got things denied, but we want them in anyway.
Right. I don't love that as a precedent.
Right.
I think, if 47.1 is going in front of the jury and those arguments go in front of the jury, which I can't intelligently speak to because I don't work in California, but let's ask little girl attorney about that. But
yeah,
I guess then you could talk about the retaliatory lawsuit, but that doesn't bring in the publicity stunt statement, digital campaign. And Blake simultaneously is, by the way, trying to keep out her publicity stunts, her
right.
PR,
Her Instagram
lawyer
statement.
statements. Right. So have your cake and eat it too, I guess. I don't know. I as a lawyer, if I lost, because I have lost discovery motions all along the way and then won at trial. But this idea that you would be able to present those losses to a jury and shape the jury's perception about me. The case is not about the lawyers. The case is not, it is about the parties and what happened. And I just think, I don't know, that scares me as something that we can do in trial personally,
Right. That you can start going after the attorneys and yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the sanctions motions are coming in personally. I don't think Lyman's going to do that. I know people think Limine is sus. I still will die on the hill that the reason he didn't rule in a lot of ways that people were hoping for is because Wayfarer didn't ask for things that they could have asked for. And I do think that it's a strategy. I think they are not just thinking about this case, especially anymore now that it's been gutted. I think they're thinking forward to Jones v. Abel. And they have a lot more leeway and they have a lot more PR leeway because there is a lot less that people in that case are going to be able to do to say, the PR is
part of it. Yeah. Right.
Jones doesn't have an argument that if they start doing PR tactics on her, that it's retaliation, right? Because that's not the issue. There's no...
Every single judge is going to make decisions one way or the other that you're not going to agree with in almost every case. Mm-hmm. So I will say that I think if after gutting her case and giving them one more shot to get some other claims dismissed still has you thinking he's sus, okay, you're entitled to that opinion.
Fair, yeah.
He's a public figure. He's a public official. He's right. He's a member of the government. Shade him all you want to, right. But I think that he gave her a lot of leeway in order to let her hang herself. He gave her more than probably what she maybe realistically was entitled to, but Wayfarer didn't, to your point, didn't make those motions.
Yeah.
They did not go cutthroat, which to me speaks to how they are in private. Because they were offered cutthroat, I can promise you. Brian Friedman is cutthroat.
And, like I said, there's the second trial. There's a different arguments to be made in the Jones v. Abel case. And I think there's a different PR, especially with this case having played out the way that it is, there is a different PR landscape now for Jones v. Abel. Yeah. And there's different incentives for everybody involved.
Limine didn't take the content creators seriously. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Fuck him for that. I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think that overall makes him sus. I mean, I think that he made a bad decision.
Yeah.
Not granting sanctions. I think he made a bad decision by not quashing immediately. So I track with you on that. I'm down.
Yeah.
Just overall, I think he's a better judge than people give him credit for.
Well, and then the part too about not quashing immediately, he does favor broad discovery, and I don't think there was enough in front of him at the time for him to be sure that the content creators weren't relevant.
Right.
I mean, we know that they weren't because we know some of the content creators, but from his perspective, dismissing, quashing subpoenas quickly onto, I don't know. It's I can kind of, we have a lot more knowledge than he does, which we got to keep
about what's happening online and
about
the
a lot
detrimental impact of these people. Like, we saw the human impact.
Right.
He did not.
He had he only has small information in front of him. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of.
I agree with you guys, though. I think he made the wrong decision there. I think sanctions should have been warranted. He didn't give it, so I think that was a bummer, but
all right. All right. Any last thoughts?
I love hanging out with you guys. I just want to give everyone a little bit of love. I feel like you guys help me shape how I talk about this, shape my own perceptions about the justice system, the legal system.
Right.
I love hanging out with my girl Sarah. She's so smart. Her expertise in juries is always really helpful for me. So I just want everyone to know, like, I'm truly grateful that we have this community and that we get to hang out.
Ooh.
I might take you up on that.
I've done it digitally over Zoom.
I might take you up on that.
Have you seen enough? Saucy?
Yeah, and thank you to the mods. Smartest and
Cody.
sexiest law chat. I don't know that you can be sexy and selling seashell wind chimes down by the beach, but that's very nice of you to say. Have you talked to a pro Blake creator? I've had interactions with them. They're not people I really want to spend time talking to for a host of reasons that I don't need to go into. I think are pretty obvious. So you asked earlier if we would ever have someone. We would, if they could be respectful. And so far, what I've seen of the big ones, they can't be respectful. So
I haven't really talked to any of them. I have run this by a couple people that I know in real life in a way that I know is flattering to Blake, in the hopes that they will support her and I can get a grasp of what the jury is going to think. Like, kind of just give him a rundown of her version of events. Because that's how it's going to go at trial. She's going to sit down and she's going to go first. Plaintiff goes first. So I've tried to kind of get a sense of what the jury's first impression is. And I think what I've seen is that they have a ton of questions. They immediately start picking apart her story a little bit and saying, well, what about this? You didn't mention this. How does that work? One of the first things is something that I know people said all the time was, how is it a smear campaign if it's true?
Right.
And that's like one of the first things that comes up, and it's like, yeah, it's, there is that. There is that. Yeah. But I haven't really engaged on here, or on social media. Sarah, are you psyoping people? That is my job. That is, but yeah, I mean, I do like to just kind of check what people, kind of get a gut check of it, but I don't do it on social media very much. So
I mean, I think that's a really good point too. Blake's story does have so many holes.
Yeah.
That she's going to go up likely first. It'd be crazy to call anyone else first.
Yeah.
And she's going to give her story, and people are going to have questions. Right. She's going to oversell some stuff that immediately is going to get demolished on cross.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to get impeached a ton on cross. And now we have this storyteller who's an unreliable narrator, which I think is really easy to draw out.
Yeah.
It's not just that Blake is unlikable. It's that she's an unreliable narrator. She oversells what's going on. She's easily impeached. And I think you leave the jury with a bad taste in their mouth, and everything goes downhill from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the evidence isn't going to support what she's going to testify to.
Yeah, I mean, they start wondering whether or not they can even trust you or listen to you. And then the question is, where's her? She doesn't have the support for a lot of the stuff that she's selling. Even the people that she's saying she's going to put up to support her, I disagree that they're going to support her in the way that she needs, you know?
Yeah.
So,
you were just this weird. You were just on another YouTube channel, is that right?
yeah, so I was on Don't Fuck with Justice. We were talking about the Aaron Spencer case in Arkansas. It is a wild, if you have an hour and you just want to hear us talk about it, because the case is insane. I have no idea what they're thinking. Basically, 10% of the people in this Arkansas county voted for this guy for the primary for sheriff on the basis that he was going to throw some of these people in the DA's office, like, out on their ass. Like, I mean, this is such a wild case. So basically, Aaron Spencer, there's a guy, Michael Fossler, and he abused Aaron Spencer's daughter. That's the allegation. He got 43 felony charges. He was put up in front of a judge, Barbara Elmore. And then he kidnapped Spencer's daughter. That's the allegation in the middle of the night.
He's let out on bail.
He was out on bail. $5,000 bail is what he had to pay. So he gets out on bond, 43 felonies, restraining order against all minors. $5,000 is all he has to pay. So he kidnaps his girl, 13, 14 years old, in the middle of the night. Spencer tracks him down and shoots him, calls 911. I shot the pedo, right? That's what he says on the 911 call. The murder case gets assigned to Barbara Elmore, who's the same judge who was in for the other case. They have multiple judges. I checked because I was thinking, is this some like hick-ass Arkansas town, right? And then, but no,
she may be the criminal bench, but there's always,
right. They have options.
Ask the judge, if you ask the judge to recuse themselves, or if the judge voluntarily recuses themselves, there's always a backup judge who takes the overflow from the other bench.
Yeah. And so now then Spencer runs for county sheriff, saying, I'm going to create a sex crimes division and I'm going to get some of these people and we're going to solve this issue of this low bond. So what Elmore does, not recuse herself, she puts a gag order on every public official in Lono County to stop talking about the case. So then that gets sent up to the Arkansas Supreme Court, who says, what the hell is this? You can't do this. So then they kick her off the case. So now they're going ahead with a new circuit judge. So
yeah, super interesting. Also, low-key, I'm rooting for the guy. I never thought I'd root for law enforcement, but
here's what I was telling her, just to preview some of the stuff we talked about. But I like to go on Reddit comments because I feel like that's a mock jury. And you've got people in the comments saying, I know this Spencer guy is MAGA, but I still support him. Right. And you're like, okay, so we've got bipartisan support, which is a rare thing in 2026. But then you've got another guy who says, I'm a dentist and I can't do dental work on a 14-year-old without the parents' consent. And the prosecution is arguing that she left with this guy of her own volition. Never mind the restraining order or any of this. And this dentist is like, I can't do dental work on a 14-year-old and she can leave with a pedophile. And you're saying that that's legal?
Also, she can't consent to having
right. He's getting felony. It's wild. So, and then so Heskey said, is anyone paying attention to the David case? I'm not, but CJ journalist is. She's doing stuff with that.
I actually don't tend to do true crime because I don't like it.
Yeah.
I actually thought that those allegations had been made up for her marketing. Because he has like songs about leaving someone out in the cold or whatever. And I thought that was a marketing thing. And then he was arrested like a year later. So when he was arrested, I was like, wait, that was real? Yikes. Yeah. So that case is crazy that it took that long to get an arrest. I just did the 17 questions with Bocce. If you guys haven't watched it, please go watch it. Please go show Bocce some love. I got to spend a couple of hours with her. She's the most delightful human.
She is. I haven't seen it yet, but I will go see that.
I mean, play it in the background, y'all. Just show her some love.
Yeah, I mean, I typically, the Aaron Spencer case, I was like, I'm not interested because I don't do like violent stuff. I don't want to engage that in my spare time. But then, it was just like, read the appellate briefs. And I'm like, okay. And I'm reading, so what are they thinking? What are they thinking? How are they going to get a jury pool in Lonoke County when 10% of your jury pool voted for the guy for sheriff? on the platform that he was going to get rid of. He was going to change the system.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it was a good video. We're also going to do something about Van Zandt at some point.
You and the
Yeah, me and Don't Fuck with Justice.
Don't Fuck with Justice. Okay. Have you followed the DoorDash girl? I followed the conversation online.
Yeah.
Vaguely. If you guys want us to jump into any of these cases, I'm sure we can. I'm hesitant to get into true crime because I live my life in domestic violence and families ripping each other apart world.
Yeah.
I don't need any more bad news.
Yeah, I'm really reluctant to do anything involving essay or violence. I want to do more interesting trial strategy and jury strategy. I also think that case is highly likely to plea out. So I don't think there's going to be a trial. So there's not much.
Yeah. Yeah. DoorDash girl is kind of interesting just in that I think people saw her. There was a mixed bag of reaction as to whether she was a perpetrator or a victim. And then she was charged and everyone was like, wait, what?
It has a lot of parallels to Lively, I feel like, in the sense that I think you can see how PR and framing is very useful when someone has that or when they don't, right? You know, essentially, when you have the PR to keep pushing a narrative forward in the media, you can muddy the waters, right?
Somebody asked if I have some tips for mock trial, and that's a good place to leave. When you say it's your first time doing it, are you trying a case for mock trial, or are you a juror? One thing I will say is if you are cross-examining someone, do not ask a question you do not know the answer to unless you don't care what the answer is.
Right.
So if either way the answer looks bad for them, go ahead and ask the question. Right? If you're judging mock trial, giving people feedback on their performance, as far as a lot of times the kiddos will do like a kind of monotone, and then you wore green that day, and then you went to the store, and then you hid the murder weapon, and then you wore blue the next day, right? And it's like, whoa, you buried the plot in that.
Yeah.
Give us some like, and you hid that murder weapon, didn't you? Right? Like, lean in, like use some body language. So give people body language. If you're doing it, obviously use your body language. Hit me up. I'll give you all the tips I have. I'll give you my trial objections if you're doing trial. I love mock trial. It's my favorite thing in the whole world.
Hesky says, I'm cross-examining someone in my class. I'm playing the hospital. It's based on the Simpson episode One Fish, where the guy had poisoned fish.
There is a 10 tips for cross-examination, if I can find it. Hit me up in my DMs, probably on TikTok. I don't know how to check my DMs here.
Oops. We don't have DMs on YouTube, do we?
Do we? I don't know.
No, we don't. I don't think we do.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the comment, leave me a comment on the video later, and I'll try and find that YouTube video for you. It's a really good one for cross-exam. But craft your cross-exam where you're sort of, here's the answers I know, and get them to agree to certain things. And then you're going to back them into a corner, and then you ask the really damning questions. It's just good, clean fun. And on that note,
all right.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes. Have a good night. And I'm sure there will be more filings, and we will see you when we see you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.